Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I'll share an amazing interview answer that uses the trust equation formula and can be used for a range of interview questions. Let's dive right in. This interview answer is applicable to questions related to interpersonal skills, relationship building, conflict management, and overcome challenges. We can see some examples together before we move into the answer. So this can be, for example, tell me about a challenging project you've worked on, describe a situation where you had to gain the trust of a skeptical stakeholder, how do you handle unexpected issues or concerns, tell me about a time when you had to prove the reliability of your work, can you provide an example of a project where you had to adapt to changing circumstances? How did you maintain trust? Describe a situation where you had to mediate a conflict within a team. Next, let's see the trust equation by David Meister, which benchmarks your trustworthiness against 4 variables. Now, in order to build trust, we need credibility, reliability, and intimacy. And at the same time, we need less self-orientation, that is focusing on yourself. Now, credibility has to do with the words that we speak, that is our promises. Then reliability has to do with actions that we take in order to gain trust. And then intimacy refers to the safety or security that we feel when we trust someone with something. Lastly, self-orientation refers to the person's focus, in particular whether the person's focus is primarily on him or herself, and this means that if you focus on yourself, then gaining trust can be quite difficult. Now that we saw the trust equation formula, let's structure our answer. You should always have the STAR methodology in mind, which helps you to structure your interview answers, but also helps your interviewer to follow your points way easier. Let me provide the answer now that aligns with both the STAR methodology and incorporates the trust equation formula. Let's assume that the interviewer has asked me one of the interview questions that we saw in the beginning, and my answer would be the following. I will start with the situation. That's when, where, and what. I want to share a personal experience from last year. When I was handed a new project, you can name the project here, with a challenging history, especially in terms of trust. The project sponsor had expressed concerns about relying on my department. Then you move into your task, which is the need and the main task that was involved in that situation. So I knew that building trust, especially with the project sponsor, was key to the project's success. That's when I turned to the trust equation, which revolves around 4 elements. That is credibility, reliability, intimacy, and self-orientation. And then you move into the actions that you took in order to resolve the issue. This section is usually longer than the others, and you mainly include around 3 actions that you took in order to resolve the problem. So let's talk about our actions here. Beginning with credibility, I carefully demonstrated my expertise in focused workshops with specific, measurable examples, aligning with project goals. This laid the foundation for building trust by proving dependability, which is an essential step of trust. Then, I focused on reliability by committing to a consistent and measurable approach, delivering on the commitments made during our meetings. This way, the sponsor knew I took action on what we agreed within our timelines. This not only showcased achievable progress, but also reinforced to the sponsor that I could be relied upon. which is crucial in building confidence. Finally, recognizing the pivotal role of intimacy, I address the sponsor's concerns promptly and empathetically. This not only aligned with the project's relevance, but also created a personalized and emotionally secure environment, where she knew that I cared about her by capturing and addressing her concerns in a timely and consistent manner. And then you move into the results, that's the outcome, what you achieved based on these actions. By genuinely caring and addressing the project sponsor's concerns, I established an atmosphere of trust and reassurance. So, how did these elements of the trust equation help me gain her trust? Well, it was a proactive and comprehensive approach that overcame the project's challenging history, which laid the foundation for a more collaborative and successful partnership. And then at the end, you can talk about a lesson that you learned from this experience. And I like this when candidates do it because that shows that you are a personality who reflects, that you are quite curious about things, you like making progress, but you are also open to feedback. So, what you can say here is that gaining her trust using the trust equation formula taught me to use this approach more often and mainly with skeptical stakeholders. It has worked well for me so far, especially with stakeholders who tend not to trust easily. Understanding the trust equation formula will give you a double benefit here. That is, impressing your interviewers, but also use it in a real business situation that you will need to build trust with a skeptical stakeholder. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, but also please do share your thoughts. I'm really interested in your comments. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay well and happy learning!